With AI tools like Claude and ChatGPT, it's never been easier to build new features for your product. You can spin up a POC in a weekend, you can copy what your competitors are doing in a matter of days. But here's what most founders get wrong. Just because you can build something doesn't mean you should. Over the past decade, I've helped dozens of tech startups fix their product experiences, and the pattern I see over and over again is founders who overbuild. They ship feature after feature and then wonder why customers still complain the product is too complex or can't find the functionality they need. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact framework we use with our clients before they build any new feature. It helps you decide whether a feature is actually worth building, and if it is, how to approach it so it doesn't create more problems than it solves. Let's get into it. The trap I see founders fall into constantly is thinking that adding a feature equals adding value. Especially technical founders who come from a development background. The mindset is, we could just add this one thing on top, or since we're already launching this, might as well include that. And on the surface, it makes sense. If you can build it quickly, why not? But there are hidden costs that most people don't think about. Once you build a feature, you have to sustain it. That means ongoing support, documentation, and making sure it keeps working as you build other things around it. Every feature you add creates complexity in your code base and in your user experience. And complexity compounds over time. What actually happens when products get overbuilt is that customers can't find features even when those features exist. We hear this from our clients all the time. Their users are asking for functionality that's already in the product but buried somewhere they can't discover. Or worse, users find features but don't understand how to use them. The result is low feature adoption, frustrated users, and support tickets that drain your team's time. This is why as building becomes easier, experience and distribution become more important. When everyone can ship features fast, the products that win are the ones that are easier to use and more tailored to what customers actually need, not the ones with the longest feature list. That's exactly why we built our target feature framework. Before we build any feature with our clients, we map everything out using this framework. It's a simple canvas that forces you to think through the reasoning behind a feature before you write a single line of code. The goal is to make sure you have a solid argument for why this feature should exist. There are 11 sections in total, and each one serves a specific purpose. To show you how this works in practice, I'm going to walk you through each section using a real example. One of our clients, a B2B SaaS company, came to us because they wanted to add an approval workflow to their product. Their customers had been asking for a functionality that could help with feedback and approval. Competitors had it, so it seemed like an obvious thing to build. But when we ran it through the framework, we discovered some things that needed more clarification and testing. Section 1. What is this feature about? Start with a clear description of the feature itself. This sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised how often teams have different interpretation of what they're actually building. Write it out plainly so everyone is aligned on what this thing is supposed to do. In our case, the feature was a structured feedback and approval workflow for media assets, built directly into the product so customers can go from draft to approval inside one tool without switching context. Section 2. Problems it solves. This is the most important section of the entire framework. You need to articulate what specific problem this feature will solve for your customer. Not a vague benefit, an actual problem they are experiencing today. The way you gather this matters. Talk to customers directly, run jobs to be done interviews, look at support tickets and feedback patterns. If you can't clearly state the problem, that's a sign you need to stop and gather more data before actually moving forward. There's a difference between building a POC and building a feature for an existing product. When you're building a POC or an MVP, the whole thing can be a test for your assumptions. But when you're adding a feature to a product that already has users, you need strong evidence that this solves a real problem. Otherwise, you're just adding noise. When we started, the assumption was that the customers lacked structure and processes around gathering feedback and approvals for their assets. After a first series of interviews and testing, it became clear that though they need a clear feedback and approval process, this has to be tailored to their particular ways of working and simple enough to not feel overwhelming. By the way, if you're a startup founder dealing with UX challenges like low retention, confusing user flows, or customers who can't find features that already exist, that's exactly what we help with at Durran. You can reach out to our website at durran.co or by clicking the first link in the description, and we can talk through your specific situation. But back to the framework. Section 3. Importance. Why you want to build this. Once you define the problem, explain why solving it matters right now. How does this connect to your business goals? What happens if you don't build this feature? Is this something your customers actively asking for, or is it something you think they might want? This section helps you prioritize. Not every problem needs to be solved immediately. Some features are nice to haves, and that's okay to acknowledge. But you should be honest about where this sits on your roadmap and why. For this client, the approval workflow was tied to keeping users in the product. No more context switching, increased time spent in the product, reduce risk of churn. Also, because you would invite more people into the tool, like project managers, your team, to give feedback and so on, this could lead to expanding in the company, increasing revenue per client, and would help move upmarket, targeting bigger customers too, for which the approval process is a costly problem. Section number 4. Target customers. Be specific about who is this feature for. Your product might serve multiple customer types or user personas, but this feature might only improve the workflow for one specific segment. When you know exactly who you're building for, you can make better design decisions. You can prioritize their needs over edge cases. You can test with the right people, and you can measure success more accurately. In this case, the approval workflow was primarily for designers and project managers inside small to mid-sized design or marketing agencies, as the designers needed a way to create the assets, gather and incorporate feedback, while the managers were looking for a solution to have an overview of the status of each project. Section number 5. User flow impact. Map out how this feature will affect the existing user experience. Where does it fit into the current workflow? What screens or steps will change? Will users need to learn something new to use it? This is where a lot of features go wrong. The feature gets built, but it's tucked away somewhere users never look, or it disrupts a flow that was working fine. By mapping the user flow impact up front, you can catch these issues before they become problem. In our case, we mapped out where this new feature would live in the product and realized that it has to be easily connected to where the assets are created, but also have a way to see the status for each assets independently too. Section 6. What you tried so far. If you're attempted to solve this problem before, document it. What approaches did you try? Were there earlier versions of these features that got scrapped? This creates institutional memory. You don't want to repeat mistakes, and it helps new team members understand the context behind decisions. This client had actually already provided a solution to share and comment on the assets, and even tried a full workflow builder with multiple stages and rules. That was too complex though for their customers. Section 7. Why that wasn't the right solution. If previous attempts didn't work, explain why. Was it too complex for users? Did not actually solve the problem? Were there technical limitations? We've worked with clients who built an overbuilt version of a feature, then stripped it down to something lean. The lean version worked because it matched what customers actually expected from the product. Sometimes the simpler approach is the right one. Understanding why past solution failed helps you avoid making the same mistakes again. The option to leave comments, in our case, was too passive. Users left feedback whenever they felt like it, but there was no option to approve or change the status of an asset. And the original idea of the workflow was way too complex compared to what the customers expected. Section number 8. Success metrics. Defining metrics help you understand if you're moving in the right direction or not. How will you know if this feature worked? What metrics are you trying to improve, and by how much? Having this defined upfront keeps everyone accountable. In our case, to know if we are on track, we wanted to see the adoption rate of the new feature and the time needed from first draft to final approval. Section 9. Available similar solutions. Research what else exists on the market. Are competitors solving this problem? How? Are there standalone tools customers are using instead? This research shapes your approach. Maybe you can learn from what others are doing well, or maybe you spot an opportunity to do something different. Either way, you shouldn't build in a vacuum. After the first batch of interviews with the users, we had a list of tools they were using to track and get approval for their assets. These were those separate tools, so there was a lot of context switching and easy to miss important feedback. Section 10. Constraints. List out anything that limits how you can approach this feature. Technical constraints. Does your current architecture support this? Budget constraints. How much can you invest in building and maintaining this? Timeline constraints. Where does this need to ship? Constraints aren't obstacles. They are guardrails. They help you scope the feature appropriately. A feature that takes 6 months to build might need to be simplified if you only have 6 weeks. For our client, the main constraint was timeline. They had a product launch coming up in 8 weeks and wanted this feature included. That meant we couldn't build anything too complex, so the constraint actually helped us. It forced us to focus on what really mattered and cut everything else. Section 11, Other. This is a catch-all for anything else that's relevant. Notes, ideas, hypotheses you're testing, dependencies on other teams or systems. In this case, it was important to keep in mind that we don't want to build a full project management system. If you're thinking about how to actually use this framework, it's important that you don't need to fill out every section perfectly before you start. But if you can't fill out the first few sections, especially the problem and the target customer, and define a success metric, that's a signal to pause. Go gather more information before you commit to building. Use this as a discussion tool with your team. Product managers, designers, and developers should all be aligned on what's in this framework. It prevents a situation where everyone has a different idea of what you're building and why. And revisit it after you launch. Did the feature solve the problem you identified? Was the user flow impact what you expected? This creates a feedback loop that makes your next feature decision even better. Now, if you're a startup founder and you're dealing with product challenges like low retention, confusing user experiences, or customers who struggle to find value in your product, that's exactly what we help with at Durran. We work with growth stage tech startups to fix these kind of issues and create product experiences that actually convert. So if that sounds like something you need help with, click the first link in the description or head to durran.co and get in touch. We can talk through your specific situation and figure out the best path forward. So again, link is in the description for this. And if you want to learn more about how to design a great product, then watch this video next.